The pregnancy test trembled in Jae-won Kang's blood-stained hands, two pink lines staring back at him like an accusation. Impossible. The curse that had killed every woman in his family for 3 generations, the curse that had made him swear he'd never love anyone, was supposed to make this impossible. Yet here it was, undeniable proof that everything he believed was wrong. And the woman carrying his child, the woman who had somehow broken an ancient curse with nothing but her stubborn heart and gentle touch, was currently being dragged out of his mansion by his enemies. Before we dive into this intense story of forbidden love, curses, and the Mafia underworld, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because you don't want to miss any of our emotional Afro-Korean love stories. Trust me, this one is going to take you on a roller coaster you won't forget. 3 months earlier, Sharon Williams stood in front of the towering Kong mansion, her single suitcase clutching every hope she had left. Seoul had been a dream, then a nightmare, and now it was her last chance. The employment agency had been clear, Mr. Kong is difficult. The last 5 maids quit within a week. But the pay is triple the normal rate, and you said you were desperate. Desperate didn't begin to cover it. Her mother's medical bills back in Atlanta were crushing her, her student visa was hanging by a thread, and her Korean language degree was proving worthless in a city that smiled politely but rarely opened doors for women who looked like her. The door opened before she could knock. A stern-faced woman in her 60s looked her up and down with obvious disapproval. "You're the new maid?" "Yes, ma'am." "Sharon Williams." "I'm Mrs. Choi, the head housekeeper. Mr. Kong is very particular. You don't speak unless spoken to. You don't enter his study. You don't ask questions about his business. You don't look him directly in the eye. And most importantly, you stay out of his way." Sharon nodded, biting back the retort forming on her tongue. She needed this job. The mansion was cold despite its opulence. Marble floors stretched endlessly, expensive art hung on walls that had probably never heard laughter, and every surface gleamed with a sterility that felt more like a mausoleum than a home. Mrs. Choi led her through a maze of corridors, listing rules faster than Sharon could process. He takes his coffee at 6 a.m., black, no sugar, exactly 185 degrees. His suits must be pressed with lavender water, never rose. He doesn't eat breakfast, but you'll prepare lunch for exactly 12:30. Dinner he takes in his study. You'll leave it outside the door and knock twice, never 3 times, never once. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am. Good. He's in a meeting now. You'll meet him at dinner service. That evening, Sharon's hands shook as she carried the tray to the study on the 3rd floor. The door was solid oak, intimidating in its massiveness. She knocked twice as instructed and waited. "Enter." The voice was cold, sharp as a blade's edge. She pushed the door open with her hip, keeping her eyes down as she'd been taught. The study was darker than the rest of the house, lit only by a desk lamp that cast long shadows across walls lined with books. And there, behind the desk, sat Jae-won Kang. Even with her eyes lowered, she could feel the weight of his presence. He was younger than she'd expected, perhaps early 30s, with sharp features that could have been carved from ice. His dark hair was pushed back carelessly, and when she risked a glance up, his eyes caught hers like a trap snapping shut. They were the darkest eyes she'd ever seen, and they were looking at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "You're the new maid." It wasn't a question. "Yes, sir." "Sharon Williams." "American." "Yes, sir." "Your Korean is good." "Thank you, sir." He leaned back in his chair, those predatory eyes never leaving her face. The last maid lasted 3 days. The one before that, 5. "Mrs. Choi thinks you'll be gone by morning." Sharon lifted her chin, meeting his gaze fully despite the warning she'd been given. "I'm not going anywhere, sir." Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Or interest. "We'll see." She set the tray down and turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Why are you in Seoul, Sharon Williams?" She turned back. "Does it matter, sir? I don't like mysteries in my house. My mother is sick. I'm paying her medical bills. I have a degree in Korean language and literature that apparently qualifies me for nothing except serving dinner to men who think I'll run away because they scowl impressively. Sir. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, impossibly, the corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close enough to shock her. You can go. That first week, Sharon learned the rhythms of the strange, cold house. She learned that Jae-won took calls at all hours in languages she didn't understand, that men in expensive suits came and went through the back in trance, that sometimes he came home with blood on his clothes that he stripped off without explanation. She learned not to flinch, not to ask, not to see. But she also learned smaller things. That he rubbed his left temple when he was tired. That he read poetry in the early morning hours when he thought everyone was asleep. That despite his cold demeanor, he left extra money on the hall table every time Mrs. Choi mentioned her grandson needed something. And Jae-won, despite himself, learned about her too. He told himself not to notice her. Noticing led to interest, interest led to attachment, and attachment led to the curse that had destroyed his family. His grandmother had whispered it to him before she died, the story of the Kong family curse. A scorned shaman, 3 generations ago, had cursed their bloodline. Any woman who truly loved a Kong man and carried his child would die in childbirth. His grandfather had lost his wife that way. His father had lost his mother. The Kong line was ending with Jae-won, and he'd made peace with that. So he absolutely could not notice the way Sharon hummed while she worked, or how she'd started leaving little notes with his coffee. This blend is better for your headaches. You should sleep more, Mr. Kong. There's a poetry reading at the university tonight. Not that you'd go. 3 weeks in, he found her crying in the kitchen at 2 a.m. She looked up, startled, quickly wiping her eyes. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't think anyone was awake. He should have turned around and left. Instead, he found himself asking, what's wrong? Nothing. I'm fine. You're a terrible liar. She laughed wetly, which somehow made his chest ache. My mom's hospital called. They need to do another surgery. The bills are. I'm sorry, you don't need to hear this. Jae-won pulled out his phone and made a call. In rapid Korean, he spoke to someone on the other end, then held the phone out to her. Give them your mother's hospital information. What? Why? Just do it. Confused, she rattled off the information. The person on the other end asked a few more questions, then hung up. What was that about? Sharon asked. The bills are paid. All of them. Including the surgery. She stared at him like he'd spoken another language. What? No. I can't accept that. It's done. Mr. Kong, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. I can't possibly. You work for me. Your problems are distractions. I've eliminated a distraction. That's all. But the way he couldn't quite meet her eyes told her it wasn't all. Not even close. Thank you, she whispered, tears streaming down her face again, but different this time. He turned to leave, then paused. Stop calling me Mr. Kong when we're alone. My name is Jae-won. The shift between them after that night was subtle but undeniable. Sharon stopped avoiding his gaze. Jae-won started finding reasons to be in whatever room she was cleaning. Conversations became longer, more personal. Why the Mafia? She asked one evening as she poured his whiskey. She'd been promoted from maid to something more like personal assistant, though neither of them had discussed it explicitly. You know what I do. I'm observant, not blind. The guns, the blood, the men who look at you like you're either their salvation or their executioner. So why? He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, my father built this empire from nothing. When he died, I was 19. Our rivals thought I'd be easy to crush. I proved them wrong. Do you enjoy it? Enjoyment has nothing to do with it. It's survival. That sounds lonely. His eyes found hers, and the vulnerability in them stole her breath. It is. She sat down across from him, breaking another unspoken rule. Tell me something real, J1. Something that has nothing to do with power or business or survival. I wanted to be a teacher once. Literature. I loved the idea of sharing stories, of showing young people that words could build worlds. He laughed bitterly. Foolish dream. It's not foolish. It's beautiful. Beauty doesn't survive in my world. Sharon reached across the table and did something incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. She took his hand. Maybe you're just not looking in the right places. J1 stared at their joined hands like they were something holy and terrifying. Then he pulled away abruptly. You should go. J1. Now. Please. She left, but something had broken open between them that couldn't be sealed again. The next morning, Mrs. Choi informed her that Min Seo Park would be visiting for dinner. Who's that? Sharon asked, trying to ignore the strange jealousy curling in her stomach. Mrs. Choi's expression was carefully neutral. Mr. Kang's fiancé. The word hit like a physical blow. His what? It's a business arrangement between families. They've been engaged since they were children. The wedding is in 3 months. Sharon spent the rest of the day in a daze, hating herself for caring, for hoping, for being stupid enough to think that a few late-night conversations meant anything. Min Seo arrived at 7, and she was perfect. Elegant, beautiful, polished in a way Sharon could never be. She barely glanced at Sharon as she swept past, her designer dress probably costing more than Sharon made in a year. From the dining room, Sharon could hear their conversation as she prepared the meal. Darling, we need to discuss the wedding venue. Min Seo's voice was cultured, bored. I'm thinking the Grand Hyatt. Whatever you prefer. You could at least pretend to be interested in our wedding. This is a business arrangement, Min Seo. We both know that. All marriages in our world are business arrangements. That doesn't mean we can't be civil. Sharon brought out the first course, keeping her face carefully blank. Min Seo looked her up and down with thinly veiled disdain. Is she the new help? Very exotic. J1's jaw tightened. Sharon is my personal assistant. How modern of you. Min Seo's smile was razor-sharp. Just make sure she remembers her place, darling. We can't have any complications. When Sharon brought out the next course, her hands were shaking with rage and humiliation. As she set down Min Seo's plate, the other woman's hand shot out, gripping her wrist. This wine is the wrong temperature. How incompetent can you be? I apologize. Do you even know anything about proper service? Or did they hire you for other reasons? Her eyes slid meaningfully to J1. J1 stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Enough. Excuse me. You don't speak to her that way. You don't speak to anyone in my house that way. Min Seo's expression shifted to something calculating and cold. My. Have you grown attached to the help, J1? How disappointing. I thought you had better taste. This dinner is over. Leave. We're engaged. An arrangement that can be dissolved if you can't show basic respect in my home. Leave. Now. Min Seo stood, her face flushed with anger. This isn't over. My father won't tolerate this disrespect. Then he knows where to find me. After Min Seo stormed out, silence filled the dining room. Sharon started clearing the plates, unable to look at him. Sharon. You should have let it go. I'm used to it. Well, I'm not. He crossed to her, taking the plates from her hands and setting them down. And you shouldn't have to be. You're engaged, J1. It's not real. It doesn't matter what it is. I work for you. That's all this can be. And if I want it to be more. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Don't. Please don't say things like that unless you mean them. He cupped her face in his hands, tilting it up to meet his gaze. I've never meant anything more in my life. When he kissed her, it felt like falling and flying at the same time. Gentle at first, then desperate, like they were both drowning and had just found air. His hands tangled in her hair, and she gripped his shirt like an anchor. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, reality came crashing back. The curse, he whispered against her forehead. Sharon, there's something you need to know about my family. She pulled back slightly. What curse? He told her everything. The shaman's curse, 3 generations of death, his vow never to have children, never to love anyone enough to trigger the curse's power. I can't give you a normal life. I can't give you children. I can't even promise you'll be safe from my enemies. But God help me, I can't stay away from you anymore. Sharon processed this, her mind racing. A curse. It sounded impossible, but the conviction in his eyes told her he believed it absolutely. I don't care about the curse, she said finally. You should. Every woman who's loved a Kong man died in childbirth. I heard you. But J1, I'm not planning on getting pregnant. We can be careful. And curses aren't real. My mother would disagree. My grandmother would disagree. They're gone, and I'm sorry for that. But I'm here. I'm real. And whatever this is between us, I think it's worth the risk. He kissed her again, and this time it was different. Slower, deeper, full of promise and fear and desperate hope. That night, Sharon stayed in his room. They made love slowly, carefully, like they were both made of glass and one wrong move would shatter everything. He whispered to her in Korean, words she only half understood, but their meaning was clear in every touch, every kiss. I love you, he finally said in English, the words seeming to tear from somewhere deep inside him. I love you, and I'm terrified of what that means. I love you too, she whispered back. We'll figure it out together. For 3 weeks, they existed in a perfect, secret bubble. During the day, she was his assistant. At night, she was his everything. They were careful, always careful. He'd made sure of it. But the world outside their bubble was getting ready to explode. Min Seo hadn't taken the rejection quietly. Her father, Park Jin-sang, controlled the southern territories, and the alliance between the Park and Kong families had kept the peace for a decade. Breaking the engagement was a declaration of war. Jae-won's second-in-command, Tae-hyun, brought the news during a late-night meeting that Sharon accidentally overheard. Park is moving against us. He's allied with the Choi Syndicate. They're planning something big. Let them plan. We're ready. Are we? Because from where I'm standing, you're distracted. And that distraction is going to get us all killed. Careful, Tae-hyun. I'm serious, Jae-won. The men are talking. You broke your engagement for a maid? For an outsider? They're questioning your judgment. My personal life is none of their concern. Everything you do is their concern. You're not just a man, you're the head of this family. Your choices affect all of us. Sharon backed away from the door, her heart sinking. She'd known this was coming, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real. The next morning, she found a note slipped under her door. We need to talk. Come to the garden at midnight. Alone. It was signed with Min Seo's elegant script. Every instinct told her not to go, but curiosity and a strange sense of responsibility won out. At midnight, she slipped into the garden behind the mansion. Min Seo was waiting, but she wasn't alone. 3 men stood behind her, their faces hidden in shadow. I wondered if you'd actually come, Min Seo said, her voice honey-sweet and poisonous. You're either very brave or very stupid. What do you want? To give you a chance to save his life. You see, my father is going to kill Jae-won. The plans are already in motion. But I can stop it. All you have to do is leave. Tonight. Disappear and never come back. You're lying. Min Seo smiled. Am I? You've disrupted a very delicate balance, Sharon. Jae-won thinks he's invincible, but he's not. His enemies smell weakness, and you're bleeding him dry. How many of his men do you think will die for his infatuation with you? How long before someone puts a bullet in his head because he's too busy playing house with the American maid? Jae-won can handle. Jae-won is going to get himself killed because of you. Min Seo stepped closer. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to take this money, she held out an envelope, and you're going to leave Seoul tonight. If you truly love him, you'll protect him the only way you can. By disappearing. One of the men moved, and Sharon saw the gun in his hand. And if I don't? Then my father kills him tomorrow. Your choice. Sharon's mind raced. Could she trust anything Min Seo said? Probably not. But the gun was real, and the threat felt real, and she couldn't risk Jae-won's life. I need to say goodbye. No. You leave now, or the deal is off. How do I know you'll keep your word? Min Seo shrugged. You don't. But it's the only chance you've got. Sharon took the envelope with shaking hands, hating herself, hating Min Seo, hating the entire situation. She didn't go far. Just to a motel 3 blocks away, where she sat on the bed and tried to figure out what to do. She couldn't leave Jae-won without warning, but she couldn't risk his life either. At 3 a.m., her phone rang. Jae-won. Where are you? His voice was tight with barely controlled panic. I'm safe. That's not what I asked. Sharon, what happened? I can't come back. The hell you can't. Tell me where you are. Right now. She hung up, tears streaming down her face. Her phone rang again immediately. She turned it off. But she'd underestimated him. 20 minutes later, there was a knock at her door. She opened it to find Jae-won standing there, flanked by 2 guards, his face a mask of fury and fear. Talk, he demanded, pushing past her into the room. She told him everything. The meeting, Min Seo's threat, the choice she'd been given. Jae-won listened, his expression growing darker with each word. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. You believed her. I couldn't risk. You believed that I was so weak, so incompetent, that I couldn't protect myself. That I'd let you sacrifice yourself to save me. That's not. Do you have any idea what you've done? By running, you've shown them exactly how to hurt me. You've made yourself a target. I was trying to help. By leaving me. He grabbed her shoulders, his grip almost painful. Don't you understand? You're not a weakness, Sharon. You're the only thing that makes me strong. The only thing that makes any of this worth it. Jae-won. He kissed her hard, desperately, like he was trying to prove a point. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. I'm ending this. Tonight. The Parks, the choice, everyone who thinks they can use you against me. It ends. What are you going to do? What I should have done weeks ago. I'm going to remind Seoul exactly who I am. The next 3 days were a blur of violence and strategy. Jae-won moved against the Parks with ruthless efficiency. Sharon was kept at the mansion under heavy guard, watching the news reports of gang violence erupting across the city and knowing Jae-won was at the center of it. Mrs. Choi sat with her on the second night, an unexpected comfort. He's never done this before, the older woman said quietly. Gone to war so openly. It's dangerous. I know. But he's doing it for you. You must mean a great deal to him. I didn't want this. Any of this. Mrs. Choi patted her hand. Love is rarely convenient, dear. Especially not for men like Mr. Kong. On the third night, Jae-won came home covered in blood that wasn't his. The war was over. Park Jin-sang had surrendered, Min Seo had been sent to their holdings in Japan, and the choice had backed down. Sharon ran to him, not caring about the blood, checking him frantically for injuries. I'm fine, he assured her. It's over. Is it? Really? For now. There will always be another threat, another enemy. That's the life I lead. The question is whether you can live with that. She looked at him, this man who had started as her employer and become her everything. I can live with anything as long as we're together. He pulled her close, and she felt the tension drain from his body. Marry me. What? Marry me, Sharon. Not for business, not for strategy. Because I love you and I can't imagine my life without you. The curse. Damn the curse. We'll be careful. We'll never have children if that's what it takes. But I want you as my wife. I want the world to know you're mine. Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. They were married quietly, with only Mrs. Choi and Taehyun as witnesses. No big celebration, no announcements, just two people promising forever despite the odds against them. For 2 months, they were happy. Deliriously, impossibly happy. Jae-won started delegating more, spending less time on business and more time just living. They talked about the future carefully, both dancing around the subject of children, both accepting that some prices were too high to pay. Then Sharon started getting sick in the mornings. At first, she thought it was stress or bad food. But when it continued for a week, a terrible suspicion began to form. She bought a pregnancy test at a pharmacy across town, terrified someone would recognize her. 2 pink lines. She stared at it in the bathroom of a coffee shop, her whole world tilting sideways. Impossible. They'd been so careful. But apparently not careful enough. Terror warred with a joy she didn't expect. A baby. Jae-won's baby. The family he'd convinced himself he could never have. But the curse. She had to tell him. But fear kept her silent that night, and the next. She needed to figure out how, needed to find the right words. She never got the chance. 3 days after she found out, she woke up to gunfire. Jae-won was already out of bed, pulling on clothes, grabbing weapons from the safe hidden in their closet. Stay here, he ordered. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. What's happening? The choice. They're making their move. He kissed her hard and fast, then was gone. Sharon heard shouting, more gunfire, chaos erupting through the mansion. She did as he said, locking the door, backing into the corner of the room, her hands instinctively moving to her stomach. The fighting seemed to go on forever. Then, silence. Worse than the noise. A knock at the door. Mrs. Kong, it's Taehyun. You need to come with me now. She opened the door to find Jae-won's second-in-command looking grim. Where's Jae-won? Taken. The choice ambushed us. They have him. Then we get him back. It's not that simple. They want to trade. Him for you. Then we make the trade. Absolutely not. Jae-won would kill me himself if I let you walk into a trap. I'm not asking your permission, Taehyun. Where is he? Make sure you're subscribed because you won't believe what happens next. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss any of our stories. And comment below, what would you do in Sharon's position? The exchange was set for an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Seoul. Taehyun tried everything to talk her out of going, but Sharon was immovable. They had Jae-won. Nothing else mattered. She arrived flanked by guards, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. The warehouse was dark, cavernous, smelling of rust and decay. Choi Sung-min, the head of the Choi family, was waiting. And there, on his knees with a gun to his head, was Jae-won. His face was bruised, blood trickling from a cut above his eye, but his eyes blazed with fury. Sharon, don't, he started, but one of the guards hit him. Stop it, she screamed, running forward. Taehyun caught her arm. Well, Choi said, his voice oily and satisfied. The infamous Sharon Williams. The woman who tamed the wolf of Seoul. Do you know how valuable you are? You wanted me, here I am. Let him go. Oh, it's not that simple. You see, this isn't just about territory or business anymore. This is about teaching a lesson. Jae-won needs to learn that love is a weakness, not a strength. If you hurt her, Jae-won growled, I will hunt you to the ends of the earth. I will destroy everyone you've ever loved. I will burn your legacy to ash. Choi laughed. Empty threats from a man on his knees. No, I think we'll keep you both. You can watch while we break her, and then we'll kill you both. How's that for poetry? But Choi had made a mistake. He'd assumed Sharon was just a helpless woman. He'd forgotten that she'd spent 3 months living in Jaewon's world, learning, observing. He'd forgotten that love makes people dangerous. Sharon moved fast, pulling the small gun Taehyun had given her from her jacket and firing in one smooth motion. Not at Choi, she wasn't a good enough shot for that, but at the lights overhead. The warehouse plunged into darkness. Chaos erupted. Gunfire lit up the dark like lightning. Sharon hit the ground, crawling toward where she'd last seen Jaewon. Hands grabbed her, and she almost screamed before she recognized his touch. "I've got you," he whispered. "Stay down." Taehyun and the other guards had come in the moment the lights went out. The fight was brutal and short. When the emergency lights finally flickered on, Choi and his men were dead or fleeing. Jaewon pulled Sharon to her feet, checking her frantically for injuries. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you?" "I'm fine. I'm fine. Are you?" He kissed her, hard and desperate, in the middle of the carnage. "Don't ever do that again. Don't ever put yourself in danger for me. That's what marriage is. We protect each other." On the drive home, wrapped in Jaewon's arms despite Taehyun's eyes in the rearview mirror, Sharon knew she had to tell him. After everything they'd just been through, after almost losing each other, she couldn't keep this secret any longer. "Jaewon, there's something I need to tell you." He tensed. "What is it?" "I'm pregnant." The silence in the car was absolute. Even Taehyun seemed to stop breathing. "You're..." Jaewon couldn't seem to finish the sentence. "About 6 weeks, I think. I took a test a few days ago. I was trying to figure out how to tell you, and then everything happened so fast. The curse." His voice was hollow. "We don't know that it's real. Jaewon, people die in childbirth sometimes. It's tragic, but it's not always supernatural. Modern medicine, good doctors. My mother had the best doctors money could buy. My grandmother did too. They still died. So what are you saying?" Her voice was small, terrified of the answer. He was quiet for a long time. Then he pulled her closer. "I'm saying we fight it. We find the best doctors in the world. We do everything possible to keep you safe. And if the curse is real, we break it. Because I'm not losing you, Sharon. I can't." The next weeks were a whirlwind. Jaewon became obsessed with finding a way to break the curse. He tracked down the shaman's descendants, historians, anyone who might know something. Meanwhile, Sharon saw doctor after doctor, all of whom assured her she was perfectly healthy. But Jaewon's fear was a living thing, growing larger each day. He became overprotective, barely letting her out of his sight. He'd wake up in the middle of the night just to make sure she was still breathing. "You're going to drive yourself crazy," she told him one night, 6 months into the pregnancy. "I can't help it. Every time I close my eyes, I see you." He couldn't finish. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm strong, the baby's strong, and we're going to get through this together." "How can you be so calm?" "Because one of us has to be. And because I believe in us. I believe that love is stronger than any curse." In her 7th month, Jaewon finally found something. An old woman living in the mountains who claimed to be the great-granddaughter of the shaman who'd cast the curse. They made the journey together, climbing to a small temple that seemed to exist outside of time. The woman was ancient, her face a map of wrinkles, but her eyes were sharp and knowing. "You're the Kong boy," she said before Jaewon could introduce himself. "I've been waiting for you. Can you break the curse? Sit. Both of you." They sat on worn cushions while she prepared tea with trembling hands. "My great-grandmother was a powerful shaman, but she was also scorned and hurt. Your ancestor promised to marry her, then abandoned her for a richer match. In her pain, she cursed the Kong bloodline. But curses, like all magic, have loopholes." "What loophole?" Jaewon demanded. "The curse affects women who love Kong men. But its power comes from the Kong man's own belief in it. Fear feeds it. Guilt nourishes it. Your grandfather believed he'd killed his wife with his love, so he pulled away from your father, who grew up believing love was death. Your father believed it, so when your mother got pregnant, his fear poisoned everything. He couldn't protect her because he was too busy waiting for the curse to strike. So it's psychological, Sharon asked. It's both and neither. The curse is real, but its power is in the mind. To break it, you must believe it's already broken. You must love without fear, without guilt, without the shadow of death hanging over you. That's impossible, J1 said flatly. How can I not fear when everyone I love has died because of that very fear? You must choose, Kong J1. Will you love your wife and child with your whole heart, trusting in life? Or will you fear and doubt, feeding the curse that has plagued your family for generations? They left the mountain without clear answers.